Welcome to the other side. This is a podcast for first responders or by first responders for those that are under high stress. We want to learn from folks that have been through something to come out the other side successfully. And part of what we want to do is share what it's like on the other side of the badge. Now, that said, I need you to understand that sometimes we work in the dark, and our desire at 43rd Mission and some of the messages from Sarah and I are to be a light in the dark, because we work in the dark, not only physically, but metaphorically. We work with some of the darkest people in our community. We work with some of the darkest moments in our community, and that stuff doesn't often get talked about. Part of our desire for this podcast is to expose what that's like so that you understand us more and that we can help create a community together where we understand each other. Now, that said, it's important for me to remind you that I'm still an active duty patrol sergeant. I'm still out there. I'm doing it with you. And I've taken the things that I've learned from my wellness program, the stuff that we teach, to be able to create more capacity in myself to do this job. And I have seen that go south a number of ways. And you'll hear about my story about how there was a time where that really got to me until I figured out these action items. But that just creates more capacity for me. It doesn't mean we don't go through stuff. And you'll hear one of our guests coming up talk about in the fireside how, sometimes we feel like we lost more than we won. And those days and those weeks are rough. But I recognize that there's value in when that happens to be able to share that with you as close to real time as I can. Now, this video is a remake of one that I posted several days ago. And we had some audio issues, and I finally resolved what was going on. So I figured I'd repost it so that it wasn't hard on the ears. So with that being said, I'm going to do my best to recreate that. In these moments when this stuff happens, I just feel like at times we have to not be afraid of the dark, not be afraid of talking about it. That's what we call the dark. Because the old me would not have talked about it. I would have just called it a suck zone, and I would have just kept moving and never dealing with it. And it piles up and it piles up and it piles up. So I want to tell this story for a couple of reasons. A, just be vulnerable and honest. And B, talk about how things are a little bit different now with the way we work. And that's a good thing. And I'm going to encourage you to try to take a listen to that and learn more about our system. But we had a hard week. We started off our week coming off the other team, taking over the road so they could go on their days off and rest and recover. And they had a horrific, horrific night. There was just a terrible, terrible accident that tragically claimed the lives of 2 people. And as they were wrapping up with that, another call came out where a woman had taken her own life. And regardless of the circumstances or scenario, that is difficult to deal with. So we take over the road. I get there about 10 a.m. I'm working 15-hour shifts about 3 days in a row to cover to help out. And we get a call that another person has died. Now, that stuff happens. It's natural. It's part of our community. And we go investigate those. Every unattended death, our policy says that we're supposed to investigate that. And as a sergeant, I go to everyone. And I believe in that. I believe we should be doing that. I believe that our policy is correct. I believe that the government should take as much respect and interest in your death as they do your birth. And at that moment, we represent the government in our community. And certainly as a sergeant with my experience, especially as a detective, we want to be there just to investigate, to make sure that nothing nefarious has happened, to make sure that there's nothing left to investigate. And a lot of times we're trying to give those answers to family, because I've been there. I've been where people just are having a hard time believing what happened, or hard time, in the grief process, believing that this person is now gone. And without that investigation, without that report or given those answers, it would have been hard on the family. So I believe in it. And I'm also one of those guys that, finds a lot of pride and satisfaction in the fact that we can piece together the last moments of this person's life, that we can kind of make sure we're telling the story correctly. And I think there's a good sense of purpose in that, even though it's not pleasant. So day one starts off, we get a call, and we go there. And I should also mention that I always stay as often as I can to help the coroner load this person's body and help load them into the coroner's van or truck so that they can, take that person down and continue the next steps in this process. So day one, we get one, and then another, and then another. So it's a heavy day. So day 1, we've loaded 3. Day 2, another. And then on day 3, another. And this particular one, this person had been sitting in the hot sun for almost a week. So there's a natural process that the body goes through, and it's natural. But it is difficult to deal with. But we deal with it. We get through it. So we're going into day 4, pretty exhausted from the week. There was a lot of long days, a lot of calls, and we get a call from a frantic family saying that they'd found a note that their loved one had taken their life, and the note directs them to call 911 and tell them that this person had spent 30 years as a first responder, that he's taken his own life, and instructions on what to do next. So we're flying. We're going there as fast as we can. And the first 2 on scene, I arrived just behind the second, and the first 2 on scene are doing life-saving efforts, and they did everything they could to save this person's life, including the medics that arrived shortly after. But in the end, he had made his decision. Now, in this moment is always difficult because I don't care who you are, that hurts. And when you recognize and experience the trauma and grief with the family, they hurt. And we've gotten the privilege of teaching our classes to people that in agencies that have been affected by first responder suicide, which has been an honor and a privilege. But even the community there hurts. And so do the first responders. Now, this is one of the first times that it hit me the hardest. And the reason is there was a note left to us instructing us on what he wanted done, and as an investigator, that there was nothing nefarious, that this was his own decision. But it's the first time in our careers that I'm reading a note from a cop to a cop. And that hit home. And if it doesn't ever hit home for you, that moment will. So it hit us. It hit us pretty hard, and we had to take a moment. We, had a couple hugs and shed some tears because it just hit home for a number of different reasons. So then we start figuring out how we can give this person the most respect that we can, knowing that the family's really suffering. They didn't get to say goodbye. It seemed to take them by surprise. So I made a few calls, and we were able to put together just a small motorcade and escort this person to the coroner's office, which I think said a lot to the family, and it also let us get a little bit of closure. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that we were able to do that. But it got me. It broke me down a couple of times, especially in the motorcade as I was in the front and I look back as I'm turning a corner and I see these cars and lights showing their respect. And I broke down. And that's okay. I mean, it hit home. I think there was a lot of pride that we were able to do this for this person and the process, but also just, it struck a lot of emotion out of me. And that's okay. The cool part about what we've learned is that emotions are okay. In fact, it's when you don't feel them, that's when you're in trouble. Now, we get to do a lot of cool stuff as cops. I mean, all the stuff I wanted to do as a kid, movie star stuff, we get to do action item stuff. It's great. We get to do the funnest stuff. And then there's moments like this that they don't always talk about, especially in the movies. And it reminded me of a story I wanted to tell. I don't know where it came from. I just remember hearing it. I'll do my best to tell it in my version. But it's the story of an old crusty cop and the new guy. And the new guy is doing everything he can to prove himself. He's trying to, drive fast, talk tough, catch bad guys. He's doing everything he can to be one of the guys and to prove that he's got this. He can do this job. He's got your back. And the old crusty guy just keeps telling him, "You're not a real cop." And that frustrates him. So they keep going. He keeps accomplishing. And the old guy says, "You're still not a real cop." And then one day, new guy has a bad day. And he sits in his locker room and he's crying. An old guy walks in and he says, "How do your tears taste?" He's like, "What? What are you talking about? How do your tears taste?" He's like, "I don't know what you mean." He goes, "Because now you're a real cop." You see, the things we go through can be exciting and fun, and they can also be dark and tragic. And it affects us all in certain ways, and that's okay. It's like filling up a balloon, and you make the balloon as tough as you can. But we're never taught, we're never trained how to start emptying that balloon so we have more capacity. We are so purpose-driven in this job that we'll just keep taking it, and it'll get to us. But I'm proud to say, how we handled that situation, and then coming back to the station, regrouping, doing the things that I talk about in our class to reset yourself before you go back on patrol and serve others. And we're given the grace in our department, and we're able to do that. So I'm proud of that. And we take our time, we do a little walking, we debrief, and then we start back on the road slow with reports. And the guys are seemingly pretty good. But I want to tell you, suicide always has an effect on all of us. And I get it. I get at that moment, it seems like an option. At that moment, it might end your pain. But I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody whose life has been affected by suicide, or people have done it, or people that are affected by that. That's not what this message is about. What I want to do is tell people to consider the amount of pain that you inflict on other people, because it will affect them. When the first responders arrive, it'll hurt. And experiencing that pain, that suffering from the family that didn't get to say goodbye, that hurts. And when the community learns about it, they hurt. And a lot of us just think, if we could have only had one more conversation, if we could have only tried to help. So if that's on a plate for you, that decision, please reconsider. Please consider that there may be another option. Please use your resources, the phone calls, friends. You can go to our website for options. There's usually some sort of options within your department, peer support, and other options now. But please reconsider, because there is another way. Now, I've been fortunate in my life to have the wake-up calls that I had, that have the friends of support, and the drive to figure out how to balance this job in a healthy, happy way. And our desire is to show you that. So give us a chance. Because I'll tell you right now, I love my job. And there was a time that I didn't. And it's the greatest job on earth. But only if you do it right. Now, to my crew that day, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of how you responded. I'm proud of how hard you tried. I'm proud of the respect that you showed. And I'm proud of how you took care of yourself, and how we could be honest about how that affected us and deal with it in the moment in the healthiest way we could. This job is still the greatest job on earth, but there is a dark side. And that dark, there can be a light. And we want to help you with that. And I thank you for listening. This is not always the funnest topic to talk about, but I figured since it was fresh, it's important. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. If you could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video with others, we would so appreciate your support in growing our channel. And we'll see you next time.